Oh. Oh, here we go. I'll get to watching it so I can get the comments. Give it some love. Let me share it.
By the way, Steve, I did find a new photo of you in a
Oh,
Google image
good.
search, but I still like the shit sandwich too much.
Especially with me screaming at it. Hey, buy this book! Let me see if I can figure out how to share a live post on the LinkedIn.
How's your
I'm
summer
on the
been?
page. Good. How about yours? Ours, it's almost over though. You know that, right? It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I hate hearing that. I also hate that we don't, we always recognize summer being over whenever the kids go back to school. But the last day of summer is actually what, September 20th?
It's when
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
nature starts turning the color of the leaves.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's
I
right.
think we may have a late summer. Kirshner Almanac saying we're going to have a late summer.
The Yeah, well, we didn't start our summer until July 4th this year. They our river and our lake, they control it with a dam,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to raise it by July 4th, and usually it's raised the first week of May, but they didn't raise it until July 4th until they were legally required to, and they claimed it was because they had so much runoff coming from rain and snow that they had to prep for that. And I think it was because the price of natural gas was so high, they wanted to keep using the dam
Mm-hmm.
and generate as much electricity as they could. But that's me. So there you go.
That sounds logical.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, let me share that in a post real quick.
Yeah, speaking of that, I just learned that a little over 70% of the power in Vermont comes from hydro.
Wow.
You green state,
I,
you.
We
I
are
love
super
Vermont.
green, but actually, doesn't that make us blue?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I think we are that too. All right,
Downtown.
5 seconds, guys. All right, boom, there we are.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Hello.
And we can start off with Alan here. Looks like he's admitting that he likes to put butter on his shit. Okay.
Hey, butter makes everything better. You know that. Whether it's
Real butter.
whether it's up here or down under, right, Alan? Real butter makes everything better.
So
Not
Butter
Miracle
makes,
Whip.
butter makes Vegemite better, if anything could. There you go.
well, welcome back, Steve.
Hey,
Yeah, it's been a
thank
while.
you. Been a minute. That's for sure. Yeah. As you can see, I've aged a little bit
You're,
since then. So,
I know. Looking good.
all right,
Looking
all right.
good.
Let's see.
You're always in my thoughts, though. Even when we don't
Yeah,
talk, you're always in my thoughts.
good. Indeed. Ditto. Ditto, ditto. Glad to be back for sure.
Yeah.
We got a lot we can talk about today.
Couple things.
Yeah, just a few. Not much going on in the world.
No. Hey, why don't we start with politics? No, I'm kidding. It's already enough of that on every network that this is being shared on. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
not
Oh,
warranted, even if you have an affidavit to speak about right now.
my goodness, you went there. You went there.
Straight there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not
I'm
touching
just
that
speaking
one.
about talking about politics. That's not warranted. Right?
Ah,
That's
no, warranted. Yeah, no. Let's. You know what? Why don't we get digital retailing out of the way so we can get into the FCC? How's that sound?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you put together some handbook, a digital retailing handbook, and to some degrees, we talk about digital retailing so much, but when you sent over your handbook, I was reading through it, and I was like, as usual, Stauning just lays it all out here. It's very very practical.
Yeah,
stuff that
so
makes sense.
yeah, and it's really meant for creating a better customer experience. It's not about selling cars online, and the handbook is pretty clear on that. And when we
Hmm.
look at data, like I think CDK had a good study that showed 85% of dealers had some sort of digital retailing tool in use on their website, but only 31% of those dealers actually said they used the tool in store. That means
Hmm.
69% only have it on their website, and so it's just a lead gen tool. And the fact is that that's a silly use of digital retailing. You're not doing digital retailing because then, my gosh, we did digital retailing 20 years ago when we put trade appraisal forms on websites, right? So,
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
real digital retailing is just about a better customer experience. So, and then even if you look at that 31%, my guess is only half of those have a tablet process in store. And all of those things aren't that necessary when you're selling every unit you can, right? I mean, last year Kelly Blue Book
Hmm.
said buyer satisfaction with dealerships was at an all-time high, and it broke the record from 2020. And why was buyer satisfaction an all-time high in 2020 and then again higher in 2021 when prices were higher? It's because the process took less time, right? Sticker
I
is
thought it was because
quicker.
consumers love paying over sticker.
Yeah, it's no. What it says is the price has never been the issue, right?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
that how long the process takes, and we've said for years, right? I learned in 1985 sticker is quicker, right? And it is, and over stickers even quicker. So, uh, but uh, but the idea that's what we have to learn from this. We didn't need a tablet process in store the last 24 months, but maybe the next 24 months, having a tablet process in store might earn you higher growth. Well, it will earn you higher grosses when gross becomes an issue again, when we're fighting for gross, or when people want to start negotiating again. That tablet process keeps your team pretty focused, and
Hmm.
it's a better customer experience, shorter process. And when we all started in the business, we got a road to the sale, right? On a little card, right? I had a laminated card that had, I think, 12 steps to the road to the sale back then.
Mine's tattooed
And is it right
right
here? You
here.
just look at it. Yeah. uh, and the road to the sale was necessary because we had to build value, right? And the customer hadn't been online back then. Um, and Dave, I mean, when gross, it should always be an issue. I don't. I mean, when dealers are having to struggle for gross, right? But anyway, the idea that if you follow the road to sale, you're going to sell more cars because you're going to build value. You do the steps the right order, that kind of thing. And today, consumers do so much online that they've already done their own needs analysis and their qualification and feature presentation and product selection. And so we'll still do some of those in store, but they're kind of an abbreviated process. But the problem with salespeople today who've become order takers, because that's the way the market is that they're answering write-up questions before the demo drive. And if they had a road to
Hmm.
the sale that they followed, they know that comes in write-up. And they'd say, you know what, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. And I understand it's important to understand what the payments are going to be to all buyers before they purchase. Of course, there's so much that goes into calculating final payment, like credit score, down payment, any trade value. It would be impossible for me to even give you a ballpark out here on the lot. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and take the vehicle for a quick test drive. Let's make sure it's the one you want to own. When we get back to the test drive, I promise I'm going to give you all the information, including payments, so that you can go home and make an informed decision. How's that sound? And that little,
That's one.
you know, go ahead. You want me to
No,
write that
just
down for
you
you?
just
Oh.
no. I've you got the word tracks down, man. You're
But
just
the
effortlessly.
but that little, that's the old school aim: acknowledge, ignore, move on. But that little acknowledge, ignore, and move on to the next step, which in this case is the demo drive, sells more cars than,
Hmm.
well, on a vehicle like this, you're looking anywhere from 650 to 750. Of course, depends on your credit score, right? Trying to vomit this payment information on someone before they've ever even gotten behind the wheel. And the point is that the road to the sale is important because it will sell us more cars, because We're going to do steps in the right order, and they're going to fall in love with the car. We're going to build some value that they haven't built for themselves yet. But without a tablet, most stores struggle to force their teams to stick to a road to the sale, right? The ones that still train it, they don't know what their guy's saying out there. They don't have a little, microphone on him and a body cam to know when he's screwing up, and then give him have like an electrode under here that, right? When he screws up, starts to talk payments. I mean, wait. Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Bill Murray.
Maybe that's the next one, right? Maybe that's the digital retailing. We'll come up with that, whatever that is. We got to come up with a name for it, because I do, as you two guys, I do hate the name digital retailing. But
shocking your way to new sales.
That's it.
You're reminding me of a lady I sold next to named Donna DeGotti, and she would find this story pretty funny if she were listening. But she used to talk her way out of sales in the showroom, like just wouldn't stop talking. And she had to sit next to the manager desk, and so you'd hear our sales manager every once in a while, Donna. Just pretty funny, but anyway. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, we've all had one of those salespeople.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, the handbook. I worked with two OEMs, and I've worked with dealers forever, right? But specifically around digital retailing and their separate offerings that they had, and separate from what was out in the market. So I studied what was in the market. And I got these gigs because I had already done a lot of that work in 2015, 2016, and just evaluating different tools and processes and things. And so what we really focused on both for both OEMs, and what I do for my own dealer clients, is we focused on the successes and the failures, and there were real commonalities between those that failed, among those who failed, and there were real commonalities among those who succeeded. And the ones who failed, almost all of them are going to fall into that 69% of the 85% who have it on their website, right? It's a program mentality, right? It's just another program, right? The misaligned expectations. We're going to put it on our website. Man, we're going to start selling cars online. And like most things, the set it and forget it approach. There are still some pricing issues where I've got one price on my website. A customer clicks through to go to the digital retailing tool, and all of a sudden it's a different price. It doesn't even matter if it's a lower price, but it's usually a higher price, right?
The bigger ones, and then the different payment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And those issues still persist. And if all it is something on your website, you're not resolving those, and you probably don't care much about them. It's just a lead gen tool that you're paying $2,000 a month for, and maybe you have to. And then for most stores, that truly failed when they tried to do a tablet process, that next step, and do stuff in stores, that was manager sabotage. Whether they failed because of manager sabotage, whether inadvertent or overt, it was some managers thought it was going to replace them, and so why would I want to let that succeed? F&I managers are afraid because, wait, they can start presenting products, right? When are they going to start closing F&I deals? And, when are they going to get my commission? And then desk managers, right? Worried about losing, their gig. And then the ones who succeeded, they drove it from the top, right? They had the expectations set right from the beginning. And then different people own different parts of it, right? They had to, this was our go-to person for technology. This is our go-to person for process. This is whatever. And they all have, and this is the part where, watch out, those are my dogs, in case anybody's wondering whose dogs those are. Jeff doesn't have dogs in the dealership there. The ones who've succeeded all have some form of a sales concierge, someone who can take that online lead, because that's what a digital retailing inquiry is, and pull that customer through a process, either to come in for an appointment or to take them the rest of the way through the process. And Jeff and I were talking. Alex and I were talking before about what the percentage of, I don't want to steal your thunder, Alex. So what's the percentage of people who start a tool that end up buying via the tool, right? What is that
So
you're hearing?
first, let me give the source on this. So we had a PASH event, and the question was asked in multiple sessions to multiple vendors. So you had at that time, the general manager of dealer.com was doing a session with the product manager of the digital retailing tool. You had, I think, Joe Chura from Dealer Inspire was on. And then there were one or two others from other website companies, other digital retailing tools. And they all basically said the same thing, that of the customers who enter the digital retailing, I like to call it the tunnel, only or less than 5% come out the other end.
Yeah, I was guessing 3%.
And that's what most of them were saying. It was more closer to 3%, Jeff.
Yeah, and that sort of close percentage, would we ever? I mean, we wouldn't allow old Auto Vitel to close at 3%, right? I mean, they'd be out the door, right? If you think about it.
That's true. Yep.
And so, and that's because there's those misaligned expectations, right? They're going to buy online or they're not, right? We don't need this person who has some salesmanship abilities, although usually it's better if it's a BDC agent, to pull that customer through the process as a sales concierge and move them into the store. And all of the dealers who, and I consider succeeded being those dealers who are using the tool actively in their store to drive better CSI, shorter, less time spent in the store, and higher grosses, or at least, I mean, in today's market, it's hard to say because some of the worst stores in America are making more gross than they ever did. So, yeah, and Dan's right. Very few DR tools continue accurately through the showroom. It's almost like it's almost like you need, and by the way, it's almost like you need two tools, right? Like you can buy online and here's the tool, but then we have this other piece in store. That continuity between online and offline is pretty important for a big percentage of these people.
Can I touch
and that's
on
probably
something
going to grow. Go ahead. Yep.
Here, Steve? There's a complexity that I don't think everyone realizes. In Dan's comment, because I've been through some of his process with them, so I got a bit of an understanding there. It's like there's no tool out there that can satiate any one store, any one brand, unfortunately. Potentially down to the brand if you're the OEM's tool has to fit the OEM's process, and it's checking all the boxes, right? But first and foremost, you've got to be able to match a deal structure that is repeatable by a sales manager in a desking solution. So if you can't handle that particular equity situation, that particular tax situation, whatever it is, or the way that sales manager wants to shift something around over here to make the payment better for the customer, whatever it might be, then that's one place where it can fail very quickly. The other side is there's some OEM needs. So Ford in particular, I was talking to Dan about this a few years ago, had started, I believe, the Flex program, which is basically a payment balloon. And a lot of desking solutions and digital retailing solutions don't do balloons. So it was hard to get all that in place and whatnot. And then you've got other situations like what's really needed right now are used car leases. So you have to be connected to Kula or Drivers Financial in order to pull off a real used car lease. And then you also have to have the proper book values for that region and that lender. And so what ends up happening on top of that, in order to meet all these different criteria, all these solutions have to be integrated with all these different tools. So what ends up happening is you've got a fixed per rooftop typically cost when you use a calculation engine like OfferLogix or MarketScan. Then you've got, in some cases, you've got to go out and get your own tax situations and all that good stuff. You've got the incentives. So whether you're going through Chrome or AIS or whatever that might be to collect those, or you're getting them through MarketScan. And then you've got, oh God, so many other things. You got to do a trade tool. So do you do trade pending? Do you do KBB? Do you do Edmunds? Do you do Veritech? Do you do all four to satiate whatever dealer you're working with? And then you've got the OEMs who might have their own particular stuff. You have to go get incentives directly from them because they don't share them or make them open. You've also got to match the vehicles that come in from the dealership. So whether you're getting a vehicle feed through a HomeNet or a vAuto or whatever that might be, you then got to identify that vehicle by some sort of ID. And it's not a model number, it's not a VIN, it's a Chrome ID or a, who's the Dominion one that we use at Frickin' I can't, their name's escaping me all of a sudden. But there's different IDs to match all this stuff up. So you know that you're doing it on this particular car. And it just goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of technical things you've got to get right to be able to do things the way the dealership needs it done.
Agreed. And I think, and while not all of the OEM tools that are out there are great,
Data One.
I think that's, what's that?
Data One. That's
Data One. Yeah, I was going to say Data One. I'm glad George is watching. Yeah, I think George put that deal together with Data One. There are a lot of OEM tools that are pretty good and some that aren't quite so good. But the problem is you've got dealer groups who want one tool for the whole group, and then you have these OEM specific things and things like, I mean, you didn't even hit on it. Loyalty, brand loyalty or model OEM loyalty. There are some incentives that are specific, right? Ford has them, Infiniti has them that are specific for this customer. Only this customer qualifies for this rebate or this incentive.
Like you take GM, I think, has two different rebate tiers. Like you can be like, I don't know how it works exactly, but there's a handful of dealers who are in a different rebate tier than other General Motors stores, and that one's another nutty one. Yep.
So, and the reason that I say I think the OEM solutions, at least long term, are better for a given store, even if that store's in a group, is because Dan mentioned Upstart, and no offense to those guys, but it was called Prodigy, right? And Prodigy was typical. I say typical tech, meaning that we're going to build this thing and we're going to scale as fast as we can, and we're going to make $1 billion, right? And they made some money because they sold Upstart, right? And Upstart's the same way.
22 times revenue. That's what they,
yeah.
It was pretty
and
sick.
So, and now Upstart needs to, Upstart's doing all these other things, right, on the finance side, and they've got to show Wall Street this growth and whatever. And what we're missing is what Dale Pollock did with vAuto, which is, and I'll use that example because I think it's the best one in our industry that's recent. And that is, he built a better mousetrap, and then he perfected that mousetrap, and it moved metal, right? It did all the things it was supposed to do, and then Cox bought it. Go back 25 years or 30 years, KBB, right? Black Book, Edmunds, all of these people back in the day built something to build something great. And today, tech companies, startups, most of them don't give a shit if it's great. They just want to cash out. And so I think that's the problem, because automotive is not books. There's a reason Amazon doesn't sell cars. And it's got complications that no other industry has. And every unit is unique, right? Versus books, right? They're all the same, right? If it's shit sandwich is shit sandwich is shit sandwich. And so I think that's where these companies that are not tied to an OEM are going to struggle because what is their real goal, right? I love AutoFi. Love AutoFi. What's their goal?
Sell to
Their
Ford.
goal is to sell.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You'd think they would have already sold to Ford. They've been tied to them for, gosh, I don't know, half a decade longer. So anyway,
They've got
that's
a
the whole.
pretty decent raise recently.
Yeah, they did, and again, I love them. I think they're doing a great job. I think they're a great company. I thought Roadster was on the right track. Now they're not private. They're not. What are they, part of CDK, right? So,
Yep.
and that's the. And I'm not saying that the guys that started Roadster didn't say, "Hey, we're going to build a better mousetrap," right? Because they were genuinely nice people, the ones I met at Roadster.
Well, Roadster figured out, so they blossomed up to a pretty significant number of dealerships, and then they had it come back down. And I think they realized that they had to develop a showroom tool, which is
right.
They learned the hard way what you're talking about right now, Steve. It's like it's not just an online form.
Which services actually have a showroom piece that works with the online digital retailing?
Well, Roadster does now. I mean, they all,
Okay.
so where, I watched Roadster with an Infinity store, and they struggled. And this was a few years ago. It might be all solved, so don't hold me to this. But they struggled pulling in the Infinity incentives, the customer loyalty incentives that Infinity had. They struggled pulling in any of the aftermarket products, and not just OEM aftermarket products. I mean, trunk trays, things like that. The stuff that should be easy, you should be able to get a feed from that. But maybe they're using JM&A or whatever. Who's doing all the F&I products, those kind of things. And to Alex's point earlier, there are just so many integrations that are necessary. And but now, so one of the tools that I saw being used, and it's an OEM specific tool, so I'm not going to name it. They actually there's two-way communication between the desk or between the managers and the rep using the tool, and so they can pop in things. They can so I can still do traditional desking and then manually put it into the tool and push it out. And so I think most of the tools have some sort of two-way. One of the things that, and I highlighted it in the handbook though, the tool has to have the ability to have a customer mode. And one of the tools that I looked at didn't have that. What I mean by that is I need to go do something. I'm the sales rep, and I've been working, on my desktop or this iPad. I should be able to turn the monitor around, give them the mouse, and say, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and learn about Gap, or why don't you go ahead and learn about this," and leave. And one of the tools did not have that capability. It was an OEM tool, so I don't want to name it and embarrass them. But the point is that if the customer did enough clicking around, they could see the back and forth between the sales rep and the manager, where the manager said, "Tell her to go on a diet," right, or something like that, right? And it's just
or different pricing, just different fields you're not supposed to see.
Whatever it is. Yes. So,
well,
anyway,
some of the,
go ahead.
I do want to transition this over a bit. So I think that digital retailing, unlike other softwares that are available to car dealers, could be an answer to helping what may be coming from the FTC in December. So
true.
So there's a couple of issues that are going on for those of you listening who aren't familiar. There's one about how data is sent between data companies, such as a website provider and a CRM. And we'll touch on that in a minute. The other parts are how payments and pricing is disclosed in any form that the customer sees it. That can be even oral. So how is it being said? And what products are, they have to meet certain criteria to even be sellable, like gap insurance and nitrogen tires and things like that are also.
Yeah. The FCC proposed guidelines are like most government initiatives too far-reaching. But beyond that, it's about
there's a nicer way to say it, Steve. It's the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
There you go.
Yes.
And there are, so let's be clear. I don't want anybody getting ripped off. I want everybody to have a great experience, buyer and dealer. It's interesting when we think about the dealer, right? Because the big talk now is the markup over MSRP and how dealers are ripping off customers. And my feelings on that. I don't, that's not price gouging. No one's forcing you to buy it. It's not gasoline as I'm leaving a hurricane zone, right? It's not the same thing. But no one complains about Tesla margins, and pre-pandemic. Tesla margins were greater. Their profit margin was greater than the OEM plus the dealer together, and so really? Dealers weren't adding costs. They were simply, in fact, they were reducing costs to consumers because they were creating competition. That if the OEM sold directly, the competition would not be there. All that said, I'm all for consumer protection laws that truly protect the consumer, but they should be for all industries. Right? Does anybody talk about the margins in jewelry? Does anybody talk about the disparities in diamond quality? Right? We all take the jeweler's word for it that this is and I don't know jewelry codes, but this is an ABC 123. Whoa, my God! I might as well spend 10 grand on it. Right? It's not an ABC 123. It's a DEF 456. And the point is that there are greater areas where the FTC can work on these kind of things. I think I said FCC earlier. Too many alphabet soup. But I'm all for transparency. Price transparency, I think helps our business. I think we know that from the last 24 months, right? Where, as I said earlier, buyer satisfaction with dealers was at an all-time high with buying from a dealer because the price was the price. There was no more negotiation, right? And but some of the things that are in this proposal, like telling you what percent of nitrogen has to be in there in order for you to be able to say it's nitrogen-filled tires, is asinine. If they want to say you have to disclose the percent of nitrogen, then that's fine. Right? Then I can make my own decision. Oh, this guy, it's only 45% nitrogen, and this guy, it's 2%, whatever. I like the labels on food. Does anybody not like food labels? I mean, they help me make good consumer decisions because of that transparency. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to have something like that, okay, I can kind of live with that. The other one is that I just absolutely cannot live with is that anything that the dealer has added to the vehicle can be removed if the customer wants it removed. And that one boggles my mind, right? A dealer adds, I've had dealers over the years. I have a couple of dealers right now that do a great job of taking a $40,000 F-150 and, taking it up to almost a Raptor level. And they want 70 grand mm-hmm. for it or whatever.
I don't know that hard ads are really targeted there, Steve. It's just how they're disclosed.
Well, if that was the case, that's fine. But one of the new rules is and I'm reading it right now on Consumer Reports, you won't have to buy any add-ons in order to buy the car, and so that includes hard ads that have been added to the vehicle. Look, I don't mind it. I don't mind if it's already the case in Idaho, for example. I was looking at the Idaho state laws today. The price is the price. If you advertise it for $25,000 online, that's the price you have to sell it for when someone comes in the store.
So the way I read that was, let's say that you're buying an F-150 and the addendum sticker said pinstripe, but the pinstripe hadn't been put on the car yet. So then you could say, well, I don't have to buy that pinstripe. But if the pinstripe were already installed, now that's part of the price.
And that's not how Yeah, and that's not how consumer and that's makes sense. But that's not how Consumer Reports is interpreting it, and that could be.
There's a lot of
We
vagities in there. The gap insurance
Mm.
one in particular was extremely vague in that was saying something along the lines of like, if the customer has sufficient coverage, you can't gap insurance shouldn't be sold to them. But
right,
what is sufficient coverage? It's not defined.
yeah, agreed. And then are we going to not allow Walmart to add the extended warranty to they offer you the extended warranty when you buy an electronic gadget at Walmart. Alex, you've probably never been to a Walmart, but I have. And they add that.
You look like the average Walmart shopper, Steve.
You know what? I'll tell you about Walmart in North Idaho. It ain't Walmart anywhere else. It is as long as you get there before 8 a.m., it is a pleasant experience. It's super fast checkout, clean. Anyway,
Good people
but I've been to
watching.
other Walmarts. Yeah, I've been to Walmart in Houston at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd never go to Walmart again after that, if they were all like that. But anyway, the well, I forgot what I was talking. Oh, the extended warranty, right? They want to offer an extended warranty to you, but we all know that that's worthless, right? And we all know that there's all does it the extended warranty. You're also paying for the time that you're under the factory warranty, right, or the manufacturer's warranty on that. Or again, if it's good for autos, it's good for everywhere. And I missed Dan's comment there
So
on that.
I'll bring it back up. I've got a theory on Dan's comment.
Okay.
And I also want to, before I bring this back up, I want to say that we are going to be talking about the FTC rules quite a bit on Refresh Friday moving forward because it is super important. I think everyone should know about it and be prepared for this thing that's coming through. In fact, NADA called me earlier this week, and because we had been covering it on a Refresh Friday
Right.
with Tom Klein, and they were asking a number of things and trying to help build a case against the FTC for this. And what they told me on that call was that the review process or the commentary process was cut short. And you can see that article in Automotive News where NADA's request was shut down. And a lot of times, these government agencies, when they put out new rules, they have a 3 to 6 month window where the consumers and industry advocates and everyone can come in and say what they want to say about it. Anybody can comment. And then typically, if there's any kind of good dispute or whatnot, then the commentary period is extended. And so they have been very quick to shut this one down. And it seems like it's this one's moving very fast. So don't know why, but it's come quickly, Dan. And yes, the word is really just now getting through the industry that this is happening. And it's coming like September 13th is when the commentary period's over. And then it all just goes into effect in December. So why are we talking about this 5 days before September starts? It's like this is
This is. I think it's and look, this is not politics, but it's very clear that the heads of. I mean, what I'm going to say is not politics.
okay.
This
Okay.
is we can argue these facts that I'm going to share, but they're not opinions, and that is that. When we look at the heads of we'll call them cabinet members, I guess, transportation, energy especially, these folks seem to have come in, FTC, with an agenda, and they're going to ramrod these things in a way that probably fits for this administration, but doesn't fit for the average consumer or business. And if I get when pendulums swing, right? The pendulum's way over here. It never swings to the middle, does it? Right? It has to go all the way to the other side and then come back. a couple of times, and this kind of overreach might be, might be because I'm not giving them excuses, but might be because there are still, instances out there where you see an advertised price and you go to the dealership, and I'm not talking about dealer added dealer added options, and whatever those are worth, they're worth whatever the market will say. But where they simply will not sell the vehicle for that price. The dealer decides they're not going to sell it for that price. And so, those issues should be resolved. And I don't know that they're not against the law today. I'm pretty sure they are, at least in my state, they are. So.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, and so then they go too far, because then they want to not just stop that, but stop everything that they find distasteful.
and I can totally understand if I put my customer hat on, and especially after the last 2 years of increased above MSRP kind of pricing. Um, if you're just a consumer advocate and you're not considering the ramifications that come through to the industry that has to support the consumers, then on the surface, this seems like a great thing. Let's make sure that all the pricing is right up front for the customer every time they hear it and whatnot. And again, I don't think any of us are disputing that. We know that a lot of dealers are very good at being transparent with the pieces the customer cares about. This is going to take the pieces of the pricing and basically think of it like you almost have to give a customer a full contract, like what you would show them in the F&I office, every time you give them a number. So you're going to have to say, okay, if you're doing a comparison, let's say you've got you're comparing a Civic EX to a Civic LX, and you're saying, okay, the payments on the EX are going to be $500 a month, and the payments on the LX are going to be $450 a month. Now you have to show them everything that goes into that payment, including the total cost of the payments over the term of the loan. So if you're buying a $28,000 Civic, and once you apply the interest and everything over 84 months or however long they're financing it for, now you're showing them like a $54,000 number. And then you have to be able to show all of that. Your salespeople need to be able to speak to all of that. And your people who are on the phone, your BDC staff, and your people who are typing back to the customer. You have to show it in the emails. You have to show it on your website. You have to show it everywhere. Wow. And this brings me back to where I think Steve is on the right track here in speaking to a digital retailing, for lack of a better term, but those solutions are well positioned to have that data already and to be incorporated into the dealer's overall process so that the dealer is utilizing one source of truth for everywhere that they're showing the customer a price or showing the customer a payment. You're always going to have to show them the out the door number, basically, is what this thing's saying. So,
yeah, and go ahead, Jeff.
No, I just wonder how they're going to police this.
They're going to, I think, by complaints. Right? They'll get a complaint, and then they'll go in heavy-handed, and
easy one. As soon as this can be an event that a dealer can get sued for, watch for the ads. Have you ever been into a car dealership and had blah, 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 blah? If you have, call Jones, Johnson, and Jemima or whatever.
Yep. But I think, and you're right. I think the digital retailing tool can take care of that, at least in a more, Glenn Garvin said with the 87,000 new IRS agents. That's how they'll police it. But
armed.
But so to Alex's point, and this is where maybe an OEM tool is going to try harder than an Upstart. Again, nothing against Upstart, but having all of those disclosures and the electronic signature on those disclosures is going to at least keep the process from now taking 6 hours, right? Because that's what you're going to end up with if you're still a paper dealership. If everything's on paper, right, including everything you do with write up you can't handwrite anything, and everything's going to have to be the customer files are going to be this thick moving forward. There's got to be an electronic solution for this for dealers. If these pieces go through, my recommendation to dealers, since this has not been on their radar, is call your state association. And this has got to be one of the top 2 or 3 issues that you have, if not the top one. The single most important issue. So
let's make it even worse, Steve. And by the way, congrats, Christine. So completing JM&A school. But
absolutely, big deal. That is good.
So the one thing we haven't touched on, and Dan's comment a moment ago just did, is the data side of it. So this, I think, is really where the lawsuits would lie, or lay. My English degree out here. So the is it Graham Leach Bleach? I don't know. It's something like that. There's an article on DealerRefresh that speaks to this a bit. But it's a new way that all retailers and the servers of retailers, we call them vendors in the automotive world, have to protect consumer data. So what was PII, personally identifiable information, was typically thought of as like birth dates, social security numbers, things like that, and stuff like John Jones, first name, last name with email address johnnyjones@gmail.com was a little loose. It wasn't always thought of as PII, but now it's going to be. And so anything that is customer data will fall under that umbrella. And what can happen here is the data, in particular, the verbiage in there is the data must be encrypted at rest, which most of it is in most systems, but it also has to be encrypted in transit. So if you have 2 companies that are sharing customer data, so let's say somebody submits a form on your website, could be as simple as check availability, right? That form is going to have first name, last name, email address at minimum, right? And that is going to be sent via XML or ADF in an email to your CRM system, right? Because it's sent in an email, that's not encrypted. So
what about text messaging? This is really going to, a lot of salespeople, are building their communications and relationships via text. I don't know how much price quoting is going through there. But what about even like your if you got your CRM to send you a text message whenever a new customer lead comes out or a customer responds? That's got first name, last name in it. It's got an email and address in a lot. And they're going to have to shut all that down, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they won't have to shut it down. The right answer is that we technology companies have to, and my company sends leads into CRM. So we would absolutely need to do work to work with the CRMs directly to work in some sort of encrypted manner in order to fit the bill. And we're able to do it. It's not a heavy lift in terms of technical work on our side, but the CRM companies are going to need to define how they're going to accept this data. So once
it has to be APIs. It's all going to have to be through APIs. You can't do it with email because it can't. I don't know how they decrypt it on the other end. Is what I'm getting to, right? So that's interesting. And I'm gonna guess that at least the piece that Dan talked about of the protecting of the customer information while it's static is, that's luckily in our industry, the DMS companies and the CRM companies have been pretty solid at at that.
Well,
It's the
they
well,
there's a little something to be concerned with here.
all right.
So, yeah, Chris Leslie, let's start over from the top. So, uh, there once this thing's over, you can watch the whole thing over again. But so anyway, I did write an article about this yesterday. As it dawned on me that this could be an opportunity for those particular data suppliers, the CRM systems, et cetera, to create a new revenue stream off of a certification program.
Mm.
So if we're all familiar with how the DMS systems...
If only we had an example of that over the years. Oh, yeah, we did.
So that's my
Yes.
fear, is that if the companies that need to do the dispositioning on leads to the OEMs and the shift digitals and all that fun stuff also are getting paid to bring that data in from every lead source there is, then, if they're charging an exorbitant fee for doing this, and I can understand them charging a fee. Now it takes development work to set up an API and get everything flowing correctly with each other dev team in another company. And there are monthly costs that are involved in hosting and bandwidth and all that fun stuff. So I can understand that. But those costs are quite minimal. However, if they become something that becomes a profit stream, then a company like mine, we'd have to look at it and say, can we eat it? Are our margins high enough to be able to do that? Or do we have to roll what we're being charged over to our clients? So the dealers would then have a higher price to pay for our product. And then in turn, this is the hypocrisy of the best intentions, or paved the road to hell. And what I think the FTC is doing here is that the dealers will then have to charge the consumers more because their costs will be higher.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, that's the interesting piece of all of that, is that it all of it brings a higher cost to the consumer. Again, Tesla's a great example. Their margins were always better than the dealer plus the OEM together. By the way, just for the industry vendors that are out there, my recommendation is that if you ever have to pay a fee, whether it's warranted or unwarranted, to get data, and it's a monthly fee, I say you add it right to the dealer's bill, but that it's the line item says, Reynolds integration fee, CDK integration fee. What do you mean you can't?
There are agreements that are struck with every
there are
integration provider, and the ways that you can speak.
I was not aware of that.
Are in that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I say you send anonymous letters to your dealers. Did you know?
I forgot about that, Alex. You're right.
You're saying that there are industry vendors that aren't 100% transparent? Will someone call the FTC on this, please? We need the FTC to take a look at increased transparency in billing between vendors.
I will say this: we are we did the recently just did CDK integration, and we're going through the process with another one at the moment, and we've got another one in the works too. And compared to when I did this before on the dealer.com CRM 10 years ago, the process has gotten way better, and the pricing has also gotten a bit more acceptable. So it's definitely improved. Give them that.
Yep. I've seen that as well. I think enough, I think pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered, right? And so I think where all that started out being pretty hoggy, now they're just, they brought it down to a level where they make a little margin and everybody can be happy. So anyway, got 5 minutes left. Kind of wrap up. I'm not going to show you any of my books. I'm looking up here. Maybe I have one on that shelf.
Oh, please.
Yours right there. on the shelf there on the
Yeah.
monitor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe behind me. I can't see.
Hey,
Not gonna do
real
it.
quick, back to the digital retailing piece in your handout, your manual. Um, you touched on something, and I'm wondering how hard it is to implement. But you go into something as simple as your call to actions on your VDP, SRP, and making
Yep.
sure that if you're going to have a digital retailing tool, have a tool, I guess, that sort of works in modules. So all your call
Yep.
to actions land the customer in that step of the digital
Yep.
retailing solution. So a lot of DRs have a trade and appraisal piece. So rather using something outside of that, use the trade and appraisal piece that's within the DR
Yep.
tool. Of course, credit app, um, the payment calculator, calculate your payments. I used to do that too whenever I was working with another tool, is calculate your payments, but we would just drop the customer inside the
Yep.
DR tool, and that was pretty effective. So I
Only
just
because
thought it was cool that you
all of
touched
those
on
are
that in
more
the manual.
robust. Yeah, only because the DR tools are more robust than any of the trade tools
Mm-hmm.
by itself, or any of the calculate your payments by itself, any of the credit apps by themselves. But even confirm availability. I mean, why shouldn't that open that form, and then and come in as just or schedule test drive? I mean, I'm still shocked, and I don't want to embarrass the website company that's out there. But there's a major website company that does not have the ability to have the customer schedule a test drive via the VDP, like click schedule test drive. It doesn't pull in that actual vehicle. It doesn't pull in an actual schedule. All of this, it's just a static form. And the DR tools are all, for the most part, are more advanced. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just think that if you're going to have, you can have, it's usually 3 to 4 calls to action on a VDP, 3 to 4 on an SRP. Those are pretty much the best practices. You can A/B test to try more or fewer or whatever. But all of those calls to action should just take them in the funnel or the tunnel, as
Mm-hmm.
Alex calls it. And because, maybe they want to do a couple more things, right? The more, once we have their information, the more we get them, the more the deeper into the funnel we get them, the more committed they become to buying the
Yep.
vehicle if we have good processes in the store. So that's always that
Right.
caveat.
So you sent over an article. We got that over in the forums. I've linked to your handbook. You can also grab that in the resources section in the forums. Up top, just hit resources. Your latest handout is included in that as well. And of course, we'll get this recording over in refresh or Dealer Refresh. You've got your own website where you can also download. You want to share? How would someone get a hold of this other than Dealer Refresh? How would they get a hold of this handbook?
Yeah, so you can go to stevestauning.com. There'll be a link in there in the other stuff, or Steve's free training and other stuff. I forget what the menu is actually called, but yeah, there's a link there. You can do it there, but just go to Dealer Refresh and pick the handbook up there. We don't. By the way, I'm not a guy that I'm not gonna. You don't have to give me your email to get my handbook. It's free. Just grab it, everybody. I don't understand the folks that want to spam the world. But yeah, so to answer Dan's question, what's the exit strategy for me? It's one of two paths: lottery win or heart attack. And I like the odds.
What if you get
on
a
the
heart attack from winning the lottery?
That's true. That's the odds of both are probably equal to the odds of one. How about that? But
And when did
anyway,
you drop the Pladoodle? What was the name?
Pladugal.
When did you drop Pladoodle and brought it over to Stauning Solutions Group?
I think at the beginning of this year, maybe ending of last year, and only because it became clear to me that we were going to stay focused on training and process and consulting. I've got a good stable of dealer clients, dealer group clients, OEM clients, industry vendor clients that, it just didn't make any more sense. It's still Pladugal LLC. Stauning Solutions Group's just a DBA, but it's official DBA, and it's
Okay.
how I sign everything now. So glad you asked.
I was just curious. I saw it and I saw the logo. And it's, it looks good.
Yeah. Anyway, so
And
I'm not hiding behind the Pladugal name. Like, yeah, look, I'm gonna have to talk to Kreitzer. He's the boss. Right? So I think that's a Cheers reference for those of you old enough to remember
I
Cheers.
believe so. Sure do.
And before we go, we just want everyone to know that we will be covering the FTC rules more and more as more and more develops on that front until they're in play, and maybe even a little while after, as we all have to.
You should get
I'm probably
get somebody better than me on to talk about that too. Someone who's a little more well read around those things, because I was going off what Consumer Reports is saying. I'd really love to hear what a state association attorney would say. Right?
There is a journalist at Automotive News who's been covering it quite well. I'm going to see if I can reach out to him and if he'd be willing to come share. That's a good suggestion, Steve, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of them a day. So.
Well, we talked about, and I think we'll probably move forward with it, is starting a dedicated thread in the forums all around the new FTC regulations. I'll probably get started on that here this afternoon. Link to, I guess, some of the different articles, the actual commission, just all that good stuff. That way, we've got a one-stop and shop for that information. Oh, boom! Just bought Steve's book. There you go, Steve.
Who did?
All right. Making Steve some money today.
Thank you. Depending on which book, I either made $6 or $24. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Hopefully it was 24 and you don't have a heart attack over it.
Yeah, please.
My pleasure, guys. Take care. Anytime. All right, it's going to happen, All right. Take care, bye. Bye.